You're watching CN2 News. Two Chester County principals wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started Create and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's REALL Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
Create and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development on literacy as well as implicit bias. We work with leaders and leadership teams to help improve schools.
They've been surviving pandemic education by offering tips for school leaders, teachers, and parents.
We really want to see kids through the trajectory, graduating from high school, ready to go to college, or to start a career, or to go into the military.
Create and Educate has multiple community partners in the area that read books to children weekly, discuss literature, and express their support for the education system. Recently, the owners were featured for Amazon's #1 best-selling book entitled Women Who Lead in Education.
And so we are super, super excited because we're amongst a family of women leaders who are absolutely extraordinary. So it's an honor to have been asked to participate. And then even more of an honor now that the book has gone on sale and it became a #1 bestseller. So you don't have to be a school leader to have leadership qualities.
Collectively, both Tammy Taylor, principal of Great Falls Elementary, and Dr. Sheka Houston, principal of Chester Middle School, have 40 years of service in education. They have learned the need in their community, and they plan to
serve all children in all communities. And one of the things that we enlighten people about in our professional development with literacy is that sometimes it's hard for children to connect to text because they don't see themselves in text. Providing that culturally relevant literature for students, and that's not just African American students, that's all students. Every student at every school should be able to see themselves in a book, in a text, to be able to connect with it.
Surviving pandemic education together in Chester, REALL Jackson, CN2 News.
Again, their goal is to help connect educators, parents, community members, and authors each week to help better navigate the pandemic. To learn more about Create and Educate LLC, simply follow them on Facebook or at their website at createandeducate.com.
Create and Educate held their first personal event after a year of completely virtual events. The organization started during the pandemic, and their goal was to create a way to educate students, teachers, and families virtually during their Lunch and Learn event. Teachers, university experts, leaders, and educators speaking about ways to prepare students since the pandemic.
It has been very difficult. Some teachers have decided to leave the profession as well as leaders. So we know that education is something that all of our children need. We want to be able to build resilience in our leaders and our teachers so that our education system will be resilient as well.
We needed to provide the space for some dialogue on how we move forward from here and how we can shift where we are in education so that as we move forward, we're moving forward and we are not just trying to do school as usual, but truly looking for some new and innovative ideas for what's going to take us to that next level.
Create and Educate also celebrating its 1-year anniversary.
It's Super Saturday, everyone. Welcome to the REALL Academy, brought to you by Create and Educate with your very own Systems DoctHers, HERS. I am Dr. Sheka Houston.
Good morning, and I'm Dr. Tammy Taylor. Thankful to have y'all with us.
Yes, good morning, Tammy.
Hey, Sheka.
And good morning, everyone. Tammy and I are pre-recorded. So we want to make sure we announce that we won't be doing our roll call. Sometimes when we pre-record, people will text me and say, why didn't you put up my comment? We are not able to do it when we pre-record. I will have to be headed out of town to Baltimore on tomorrow. I will be closing out the Summer Institutes for AVID. Tomorrow, Summer Institute, well, it's not tomorrow, it's next Tuesday, but I'll be heading there tomorrow. But this will be the last Summer Institute for the summer. So I am excited to close us out and make sure everyone engages and interacts and gets to know our phenomenal educator and student speakers that will be featured. So if you're not familiar with us or the platform, if this is your first time tuning in, Tammy and I are both published authors. We are practitioners. We make sure that we help facilitate professional development for leaders, leadership teams, and school districts, mainly around the systems that we use to improve our schools, 2 report card grade levels and 3 report card grade levels at Tammy's elementary school in 1 year. So we also help develop leaders, especially new leaders who are new to the profession. We, between the two of us, have over 40 years of experience between the two of us, but we definitely have lots of experience in leadership. So the platform is something that we do to pay it forward. When we first started in education as leaders, we needed help, we needed guidance. So this is our way to pay that forward, to provide that help, that guidance, and also to collaborate with all of our REALL Academy family that tunes in every Saturday. So I'm going to just put up a few of our announcements. I've already talked about Baltimore Summer Institute. So if you are not registered, if you have time still and you're an AVID district or an AVID school, or if you're interested, because you don't have to be in AVID to attend the Summer Institutes. Baltimore Summer Institute is coming up August the 5th through the 7th. I am the designated MC. Our featured student speakers are Michaela Fife and Jaden Yancey. Michaela's a senior, and Jaden is going to the 9th grade. Actually, he was an 8th grader when he won this. And Elliot is a counselor out of North Carolina. So I have enjoyed meeting and getting to know each one of them in preparation for next week.
I bet it's going to be phenomenal.
Yes, I am excited. San Antonio went really well. So if it's anything like that, it's definitely going to be an exciting time for them.
I'm sure it'll be better. It's going to just get better and better.
Thank you. And Coach Fest is coming up. Several people have contacted me and let me know that they have registered. But if you have not registered and you are a coach of any type, Coach Fest is the place to be. We will be presenting there. Protocols to perfect your practice. And the theme for Coach Fest this year is coaching for gold. So make sure that if you have not registered, please make sure you register. September 19th through the 20th. It's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Harris Conference Center. We will be continuing our work with our school districts that we are registered to work with. Our contracts have been renewed, and we're excited about that. At Mentum, will still be continuing their work with Dr. Taylor and all of the phenomenal things that she's doing at her school. We have gotten some vendor paperwork for Texas. So we will be coming to Texas to offer some professional development around systems as well and school improvement. So if you are in that area and you need professional development, please let us know. Several leaders who tune in or just know about the work that we do have asked about our leadership coaching. So we do have a cohort that is coming up. If you are interested in joining that cohort, let us know. It is a way for you to collaborate with some other leaders, but also get great guidance from practitioners who have been successful in our leadership practices. And we have a Build My Sister event coming up September, what is it, Tammy, the 14th?
14th.
And if you'll give the details, Columba.
Sure. Yeah, we will be actually at the University of South Carolina and at the Darla Moore building down there. And we will continue to work that we started with the university while I was finishing up my dissertation. And we're very, very excited because this time we will actually not just be able to work with the amazing women that show up and are a part of that space. And it really, truly is life-changing. But we will also be graced with the presence of the progenitor of the work. Dr. Clorinora Hudson Weems herself will actually be present and keynoting for us at the event. So we're very, very excited about the amazing experience that we know will be coming. Again, that's on September 14th at the University of South Carolina in the Darla Moore building.
Yes, we are super excited. It will start at 11 and end around 2. So it's going to be a great event, great networking opportunities. The ladies who attended the last time just rave reviews. So make sure if you have not registered that you register, and we'll put that information in the comments so that you can attend. We would love to see you there. So systems, we're going to continue our work with systems. And remember, at Create and Educate, we define systems as effective messaging plus effective processes that equals success over refinement. And we have 3 main systems that all of our work fits into, and those are systems of respect, systems of leadership, and systems of excellence. So today we are continuing our systems of excellence, but we will be talking about what that looks like considering Tier 1 instruction. So episode 156, systems of excellence for, bless you, for Tier 1 instruction. And so one of the things as we were preparing that you must decide upon when we're talking about Tier 1 instruction, a lot of people, have their different thoughts and different thinking around, well, who are the Tier 1 students? So we have to define for people and have real conversations. Who are the Tier 1 students and who is responsible for the students? And Tier 1 instruction is for every student. And sometimes you would be very surprised if you don't have conversations with some of your staff members. Sometimes that thinking is not that. Sometimes people feel like if students are on someone else's caseload because they receive services, and it could be multi-language learner services, it could be, services for Tier 3, or if they've been referred because they, have moved past Tier 3. In some people's minds, they feel like, oh, well, that's so-and-so's student now. They get services. Every student, no matter where they go for anything, are still Tier 1 students first. And so, Tammy,
I think it's important, as you footnote that, Sheka, is just to make sure that that's communicated. Like that expectation has to be clearly communicated to teachers, because when we talk about Tier 1 instruction, we're talking about Tier 1 as it relates to everything. That's academic instruction, behavior. So I like to think of it as Tier 1 is what I'm responsible for. And what I'm responsible for as a teacher in the classroom are all of these children that have been assigned to me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what extra support they get. I'm still, unless it's an extenuating circumstance, the primary teacher for these kids that I have the opportunity to serve. And so, as you so eloquently just phrased that, that leaves no child behind in that scenario, because every kid receives that explicit direct instruction that you provide,
Mm-hmm.
the entire classroom. Then they may get additional supports that they're entitled to for whatever reasons. But we have to just make it plain to teachers, this is not in addition to what they're getting elsewhere. This is the basis for what happens for these children, and extra things may get layered on top of this.
Exactly. And this is a quote that stuck out to me. It said that 72% of special education students spend 80% of their day in general education, which means they are tier 1 students first. So we have to make sure that thinking exists in the system, because if you do not have the right thinking about your students, then you will not have the correct mindset behind instructing them.
And I think it becomes difficult to compartmentalize. Like when you start saying, "Oh, well, Sheka's responsible for them, and they belong to Dr. Houston. She's the person who works with them on X. Tammy does X, Y, and Z, and I'm responsible for the first part of the alphabet." No, that is not how that works.
Right.
You're responsible for the whole alphabet, and we provide these extra services on top of that. And I think when it's clear and when it's very clearly understood, I think that it resonates with people that I'm the first line of defense here to making sure this child gets what he or she needs.
Exactly. And before we ever get to tier 1, so when you're cultivating what tier 1 looks like for a teacher with their schedule, there is a process that needs to go in place for that, because you have to have a balance within your school so that everyone can properly serve students equitably in tier 1. So I don't believe in the practice of, especially at the secondary level, because I think at the elementary level, you all really do a good job probably. And I think you do hand scheduling, and, that balancing is something that I even got more into just from listening to you talk about how you schedule your students. We have to do a better job of that at the secondary level. So I was very intentional about making sure that those tier 1 classes were balanced for teachers. It's not just a mixed basket from the scheduler.
Right.
It has to
be. I think it's probably a little more difficult, like you said, to manage because of the course codings and all of the things that go into having the way you schedule maybe at the secondary level.
It's not. It just requires intentionality behind looking at the data and making sure that you have actually gone through each schedule and you have looked at what you have, who's there, and the numbers, and you might have to hand schedule it with making sure that balance exists. It's probably a few more steps, but
it's worth it though to me. Like, making sure that the kids get what they need. I don't care if it adds 10 steps. It's worth it to have children where they need to be versus just kind of displaced or in a situation where you actually aren't even mindful of the teacher's schedule, because sometimes we set the teachers up when you create these unreasonable schedules that are unbalanced. There's no way for them to meet the needs the way that you've placed the children in the classroom. So we are very intentional about the way that we look at the composition of each classroom, and how we make sure that teachers are considered, like you said before, based on what the children need. And a lot of that comes from data. And it's not just our academic data. We're looking at perception data. We're looking at the behavioral data that the teachers share. And one thing that I think also remedies some of that is getting the teachers involved. My teachers are heavily involved in the scheduling of their children for the next grade, because who knows better?
Exactly. And I involved my teachers in scheduling as well, because they are the people who have the most knowledge about the students and their abilities, their personality conflicts, all of those things. So we definitely involved our teachers. One of the things that, and I'm glad you brought that up about the one thing that I do want to talk about too is that belief gap. A lot of times, if you don't address the belief gap, where students don't really have a belief in themselves about their abilities, and sometimes teachers may have a different belief about students, if that is not addressed, sometimes where you need tier 1 instruction to be that level of rigor, it will not be there. So that has to be addressed as well.
Definitely.
One of the things that we would do at the end of the year, after we received our data back, to make sure we improved tier 1 instruction, is that we would go through and make sure that we would look at the standards to see, where were the high points. We wanted to continue what was happening there. So we would have conversations around that, reflect on that in our departments. And then we also wanted to look at the low points and talk about, what was the reasoning behind, the performance that did not take place here. And one of the things that I used to hear sometime was that, that was at the end. We ran out of time. We didn't get to it. And so one of the things that I would say is that, we're in public schools. They are traditional. Every year it's 180 days. Every year we do the same things at the same times. It is impossible for us to run out of time. We've got to plan better. So let's look at the pacing guide so we can work together on pacing this out so that we never say things like we ran out of time, because that is impossible. We know the calendar on day one. So we've got to make sure things are planned out effectively.
Right. And I think we have to also make sure that when we're having those kinds of conversations, they make sense. Like when you're talking to a teacher and you're talking about their mid-year data from whatever data system you use, MAP, NWEA, STAR, whatever your system is, and you're looking at this data collectively, you're looking across grade levels, and you see, these ATO standards are looking pretty decent, but what in the world is going on with geometry? And that might be a time when a teacher says, not to worry, we just have not gotten to those standards yet. But you're talking about in December. Right. You need to make sure that when you're pacing out your year and you're creating your yearly plan, you're wrapping up standards in March-ish, April. So you are getting ready to start, some intensive reviewing and hitting those standards that you went through at the very beginning of the year, so that this makes sense. And the conversation at state test time, when we see that data isn't, this is the last part of what we teach, so we really don't get to do much with probability. No, ma'am. No, sir. We have to really intentionally work that into, and it's work. It's again, there are some extra steps there. Because if your pacing doesn't match, guess what you need to do? You need to go back and figure that out. Get with your instructional team and figure out how that gives your teachers time to yield the results that you're looking for.
Exactly, Tammy. And the other thing that we used to garner from that type of data was, you know, if it wasn't a matter of running out of time, well, now this is where I need to look at my professional development plan for the year. This is where I need to make sure that my teachers have some professional development on making sure that we are instructing better for this particular strand or unit of information that we're providing to the students.
And being intentional about that really will make the difference, because when you start having those conversations with teachers, sometimes it's not that they are attempting not to get what you want as far as results go. Mm-hmm. They've not even paid attention.
Right.
That this is a low point for me. I really need to see what I'm doing. This mm-hmm. is, you know, I don't get my best showing here. So as Sheka said, that's an area for development. And when you show that to people, they will respond to it.
Exactly. And one of the other systems that we used to put in place was that sometimes even though students test in the second grade to determine whether or not they're going to be gifted and talented, sometimes in the second grade, we miss some students. So the teachers had a system set up with state data. Any student who had exemplary in multiple areas, if they were not in GT, we would identify those students and refer them to be tested again. And we also use them as fillers in the gifted and talented program because, you know, we have to make sure that we're advocating for our students.
Most definitely. And you're going to have kids, there are kids who make perfect scores mm-hmm. on various parts of the state test that are not in your gifted and talented program. Why? They didn't test in, as Sheka said, early on. Some of them aren't the best test takers. Some of them don't even really care about the design of the kinds of tests that they have to take and are really facing some test bias when it comes to certain kinds of tests that they are asked to take. So we do have to be very vigilant about watching and identifying those kids who may never test in the traditional sense.
Most definitely. So we hope that these are just a few of our systems that we use to help improve Tier 1 instruction. And we talked specifically about instruction today, but as Tammy stated, Tier 1 includes academics, attendance, behavior. All of those things are included in Tier 1, and we have to make sure that every student receives equity in Tier 1 instruction.
Definitely.
So thank you all for joining us. Principal Hurt did announce that he would not be on today because he is providing professional development. So we know he is giving his fire to wherever he is providing that professional development, because Principal Hurt always sets us on fire.
Definitely.
So join us next over on the AP and New Principals Academy with the GOAT, Principal Kafele. He has some phenomenal guests that will be coming on with him. And also on Sunday, join PGP Podcast with Principal Josh Tovar and Dr. Morena. And then back on Saturday, Principal Hurt will come on next Saturday at 10 a.m. and then followed by Create and Educate with the REALL Academy at 10:30. We are known as the Fantastic Four. So we appreciate you all. Josh, I'm going to have my t-shirt on tomorrow. I got it in the mail. So I'm going to take my picture and make sure I post it. It's a very nice t-shirt. I love it. And we will see you guys next Saturday.
Thanks, guys.
Great rest of your Saturday.